lot of times I'm driving, there's nothing to do, and I shuffle through the radio before I unglue. There's a lot of red on ways, it's traffic, I'm screwed, and I'm wired a bit different than a regular dude. It's not a bad thing, I embrace it, it's true. The radio don't stimulate brain chemistry fluid. The Buddha found nirvana and the Four Noble Truths. Through a meditative process, right action he proved. For me, I require the use of a tool, a detector, pin, pointer, shovel, and beach scoop. I'm meant to work the dirt with my history crew, but everywhere I look, my interest taboo. Most people choose Bieber over Tippecanoe. What does a detectorist listen to when the radio is full of bad music and news? I need an alternative for me to peruse. Beyond Sight and Sound gets fantastic reviews. A metal detecting show where my thought bubble brews. Thank you, Josh Kimmel, for inviting me to a detecting dork out with guests like yours truly.
Are you looking for a high-quality beach and sand scoop? Are you trying to take your hunting to the extreme? How about an American-based company that stands behind their product and everything they sell? Then check out our friends over at XTREME Scoops. John has been making scoops for some time now and makes a quality beach and sand scoop to take your hunting to the next level. XTREME Scoops recently released their new sand shredder that works great in the water and on the beach. And if you're a new Equinox user, you may want to check out his Surfmaster X3 that can trap those small targets you new Equinox users are finding out there. XTREME Scoop's company approach is let's do it right. So do it right, buy it once, and go to the extreme. XTREMEScoops.com. That's XTREME scoops.com.
Caution. Please do not operate motor vehicles or power equipment while under the influence of this show. Listening to this show could cause side effects such as bouts of laughter, violent binges of cabin fever, and even dreams of silver and gold. Please be advised. Now that the fine print is out of the way, on with the show.
All right, we're back and we're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for all the really cool digging people out there. And as I look into the chat, just for the record, on my end, it shows up different for different people. On my end, Ohio Relic Hunter was first through the gate. Sorry, Barb. Oh, what can you do? What can you do? Crazy Spider in the house. Welcome aboard. And for those who didn't see the post, freaking phenomenal. Loved the tire cover on the Jeep. That is awesome. That is awesome. That is so cool. Great design. Really like the way it looks. That looks sharp. I don't know if he posted that over in Detecting the Heartland or not. It may have just been on his timeline. But very, very cool. If you have not seen it, you should go check that out. That is sharp. I like it. I like it a lot. That was awesome. Very, very cool. Good job. I don't know how you got it there. You know, if you put it on there yourself or had that custom made or what. But that is sharp. And don't forget, Crazy Spider Adventures YouTube link is in the description. Obviously. Like I've said before, we work with those that work with the show. DA in the house. Welcome aboard. busy cranking out ugly boxes. He's building ugly boxes hardcore right now until he runs out of parts again. But supply should be starting to come back through anytime. So let's see, we've got Crazy Spider in, we've got a Coyote in the chat, we've got some Bills and Eds and Mikes and Frank and Tam and Barb and Scotty, Nelson, all sorts of people. Paul, I believe, I saw him come through. Just, man, everybody's coming from somewhere, I guess. Very, very cool. Good to see. Definitely. So, links in the description always. First and foremost, our friends over at Shooters and Prospectors. Chuck Smalley, the man with the plan and dealer of choice, multi-line dealer, dealing in XP, Note to Macro, MineLab, Garrett, Detected shafts, Dean Rickard detector covers, snake skins, and ugly boxes. Can't forget Frank. Definitely a good unit, very good unit, and we look forward to sometime here in the upcoming future, some point in the upcoming future, in the timeline somewhere, we will be having Frank back on the show to discuss something that both Detect America and Beyond Sight and Sound have been mentioning here and there as we get closer. And I know Frank's definitely putting in some time on that. It should be another accessory for the ugly box, we'll say. And I'll leave it at that. Obviously, though, if you would like to hear more about it, I'm sure you can always hear more about it on Detect America. Mondays or Thursdays. Take your pick. You never know when it's going to come up, and you never know what's going to come up. So you definitely want to drop in, interact with Frank and Steve and Ronnie and whoever else, the members in the chat, and have a good time. You just never know what they're up to. As a matter of fact, Thursday, I believe it was, I actually won one of the Gold Digger face masks. Obviously, it's not going to keep me from getting the virus, much like many of the other face masks that you see going around. But catchy, definitely. As a matter of fact, Ronnie had gotten back with me with a tracking number on that, and that should come in right before my treatment Wednesday. So who knows? Maybe I'll wear that over my 95 mask just for kicks and giggles. We'll see. Our friends over at DETECTEES.com, Extreme Scoops, TheRingFinders, Detected Outdoors, All Metal Militia, Crazy Spider Adventures, Ohio, Metal Detecting on YouTube, Metal Detecting NYC on YouTube, and the Electrolysis Bootcamp videos that were done a while back on Detect America. If you have an ugly box, well, even if you don't have an ugly box, we hope that you do, or that you plan on getting one. But even if you don't have one and you just work with electrolysis, then oh, yeah, throwing some bling around. I see that. But even if you work with electrolysis and you're not using the ugly box, it is still highly recommended that you go and watch the boot camp videos. I can't stress that enough. You've heard me say before on the show, when it comes to electrolysis, we encourage people to do it properly, do it right, and you will be safe and not damage the item. And that is why the Detect America Electrolysis Group is the only electrolysis group on Facebook that we do have as a recommended group over on the Beyond Sight and Sound group page. It's the only one. We have many recommended groups over there on the group, but that is the only recommended electrolysis group, because we want everyone to, you don't even have to understand the process behind it, the science behind it, anything like that. Welcome to Bob and Florida Hunt 6. You don't have to understand the science behind it or the principles or anything. You just have to understand that it works. And if you're going to do it right, do it properly. Enough with the links. I think we've got them all out of the way. Maybe there's other links in there. You can always see them in the description. Some of them are in the show chat up at the beginning of the show when we started. The boot camp videos, Crazy Spider Adventures, a couple of others. I'm not sure what all I dropped in there. I didn't drop them all in there, but I did drop many of them in there. And obviously, you all know where to find Chuck over at Shooters and Prospectors. Definitely. Spot on, in the house. Welcome aboard. I also see Mike in. Welcome to Mike. Oh, so, obviously, tonight, we had thought about trying to reach out to a couple people, see if anybody wanted to kind of set in on the discussion tonight. Maybe for a different perspective. And we figured that was the other night. And we figured with some things that have come up over the past couple of days, we would tie into kind of, or continue with what we had started off with Sunday, Wednesday, as far as, I've got my detector, now what? And we discussed how people should do their research and get the proper gear from a reputable dealer, a well-known dealer. Reach out to those that are well-known in the hobby for advice if you're looking for advice on machine or gear, or even dealer recommendations. If you're looking for a dealer to deal with, Fred's in the house. Happy birthday to Fred. Nice. And we covered that pretty well, I do believe. And like I said Wednesday, if a dealer is trying to sell you a machine and they've never had any experience with it, how do you know that you're going to get that valued after the sale customer service that a dealer can provide? That makes me hesitant, I would say, about certain dealers out there. Obviously, Chuck excluded. He is who we promote here. And he is a great dealer, great guy to deal with, very reputable, long time in the hobby, knows his stuff. And not only can he answer your questions, if you have a question that he can't answer, which, hey, it happens to all of us from time to time, he will do what he can to get you that answer. That's great customer service. And we did. We covered that very, very well the other night. Good conversation, good calls from Chuck and Mike, a lot of good information there, especially for newcomers coming into the hobby. But at the same time, like I had said, I don't know that I would trust a dealer who sells a line of machine and has never had any experience with those machines. Like, i.e., insert dealer's name here. I've carried line X for 5 years and never tried one until I saw what people were finding with it. Well, what have your customers been doing for the past 5 years that you've been selling these machines and they've been requesting customer service? So likewise, tonight we're flipping over to the other side of the coin. Ethics, conduct, things like that. Little bit of devil's advocate thrown into the mix there too. Many of us listening, many of us that have been in the hobby for a while, we know about the code of ethics that we all try to adhere to. We try to follow our local laws and legislation, our regulations, and that's great. That's what keeps us being ambassadors for the hobby, good role models, and all of that. Unfortunately, some of us could use some tact. Some of us don't leave the property in as good or better condition as we find it. And sometimes other people get blamed for that. Our actions don't just affect us. It affects the hobby as a whole. So you've got to remember, take the trash out, leave the property as you found it, or better. It doesn't kill us to pick the trash up off the ground or take it out of the hole that we dig. I'm sure many of you in the chat have been there before, where you get a target and you can tell you're in someone's plug. And you flip it over and you find the bottle cap or the pull tab that they left behind. And why did they leave it behind? They didn't want to take it with them. Because, who knows, one reason possibly would be because they don't feel like they have enough room in their pouch because they're not carrying one. I mean, that's kind of a red flag right there. I don't know. I have not seen many diggers that don't have on their person some sort of a pouch, whether it's a finds pouch, a backpack, a fanny pack, a finds box, what have you. But the ones that you don't see, the ones that you see without a pouch, where are they putting all the trash that they're digging? It's no big secret. We all dig trash out there. Where are they putting that? Are they leaving it in the ground? Are they throwing it next to a tree? Hanging it from a tree branch or something? I mean, we know that not everyone does the right thing necessarily. And with all the newcomers that we have coming into the hobby, much like we said on the last episode, it's kind of up to us as ambassadors and role models or veterans of the hobby, call it what you want, to give guidance. You know, don't have the newcomer in the hobby coming into your local park with a full-on garden shovel, digging holes, and God forbid leaving them open or something like that, because it's even if they're closing them up, it doesn't look right. There's a lot to be said for perception. And when you're running around with a full-on shovel, that can give us all a black eye. That's why we say proper tools for proper tasks. You know, there are times and places for certain tools. Your full-on, like your piranha long-handled digger, great in the fields, great in the woods. Maybe not so much in your public park or schoolyard. That is an area that's better left for your hand diggers. So that kind of falls into, you know, a little bit of both, a little bit of ethics, a little bit of conduct, because we do have to conduct ourselves professionally when we're out there in the public eye. And I'm sure we've all had that issue. You know, somebody comes up, they're ranting at us, or they call the police because they think we're doing something that we shouldn't be. Where do you draw the line with that? Well, you know, you have to maintain your composure. You can't just lose your cool about it. That's not going to amount to anything good. Not going to amount to anything good. Likewise, though, here's kind of where the devil's advocate comes in. For those of us that do recoveries, ring recoveries, like we talked on Wednesday's show, I believe it was Mike that said he always keeps a journal of, or at least did early on, I'm sure he still keeps some notes, of what the environment was like, how deep he was finding targets that day, what he found that day, what settings he used, things like that. It's a good practice. And likewise, as a detectorist in the hobby, you should certainly keep message history, whatever, if you've been contacted for a ring return, an attempted ring recovery. And we'll get into that a little more here in a few minutes. I'm going to kind of jump rails for a minute, though. Contracts are nice to cover you or the landowner. Or agreements, even if they're just verbal agreements. Say you walk up to somebody's house and you try to get permission for a property. How many times, and I know this has happened to me, it's happened to a few others listening, I'm sure. How many times have you had a verbal agreement, but then based on what was being found, all of a sudden the rules start to change? I know what most recently, one of them that I can think of, Lucky Lou, had a permission where they had agreed that anything that tied to the property absolutely by all means should stay with that property. And then I believe it was a TREME popped up. Had nothing to do with the property, nothing to do with the time frame of the property. All of a sudden, the rules change. Well, you can't keep that. You know, yes, I know we had an agreement, but now I'm saying that this is the agreement, you know. That's not good. It's unfortunate when it happens. And there's not a whole lot that we can do about it. All we can do is kind of live and learn from our life experiences, so to speak. Or another scenario, say you get contacted to locate a lost item. Okay, maybe it's a ring, maybe it's a set of car keys, something along those lines. Maybe it's a bracelet, a necklace. And the property owner wants to call you. Oh, we've got a call coming in, actually, speaking of callers. Yeah. Yeah, we do. How's it going, Chuck?
Pretty good, sir. How's it going tonight?
Oh, all right. Hanging in there. Kind of a little bit of a soapbox tonight, but that's all right.
That's all right. We got to every once in a while stand on that and let people know and that kind of stuff, and whether they take it with a grain of salt or just don't want to listen to you at all, you know how that goes.
Oh, yeah.
But that ethics thing, it goes all the way through what we do on other people's property or in parks or in state parks or whatever. The ethical, as best as to our abilities as we can, and you know, and what you were just talking about on, you know, somebody sets up an agreement with somebody on what you're finding, if it's something ties to the property that may be of a historic. I've got a site up in Savannah that I've turned a couple things over to the guy that owns the property. There were tokens from Savannah. He said, I would rather have that. I showed him the coins they found. He says, I could care about Indian head pennies and Mercury dimes and Barber dimes. If you get something that ties to the town, well, I gave him a couple tokens and a voter's token from that town.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he liked them. And I mean, to me, they go in a box. I mean, they're not the greatest value, but he was just tickled to death with them. And he's going, I got more places you can go, and it opened up more doors in other people's yards. So, you know, but the one you're talking about, I talked to you about one, that lady that contacted the I&I Club, and the guy went out there and hunted and telling them there's a lost gold ring here and they can't find it. She thinks it's in this area. Well, everything they dug up, she kept. And another one went out there. She called several. And it got back to me that, hey, maybe you ought to go look for this ring. But one of the guys thought she was being kind of hokey about it. Everything that we dig up, which is fine, but the thing is she's just over your shoulder. If you find a penny, she takes it. If you find anything, she takes it. And I said, do you believe there's a ring there? That should be a red
flag right there.
Yeah. Do you believe there's a ring there? No. She's selling the property and leaving. So she called me. I talked to her, and I told her, no, I'm not coming out and giving you free time. And I actually cornered her on it. I said, the guys are saying you're hanging over their back. If they dig a penny, you take it from them. Well, yeah, it's mine. I said, is there really a ring there? She kind of stuttered on that. I said, is there a ring there? You know, a long time before she answered me. So I just said, nope, I'm not coming to help you. Goodbye.
Right, exactly.
So it works both directions.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, the ethics are there, and myself, yourself, many of the listeners included, we are very reputable, ethical people. But it's a two-way street, and sometimes there are people out there that, like I say, not everybody's our friend. And
no.
Sometimes they're just trying to get you out there to use your equipment, your skill, your time, and your experience for their benefit when there's nothing lost at all, and they think there's going to be thousands of dollars worth of treasure in their yard, and they're just going to manipulate someone to come out there and dig it up for them so that they can just keep it all.
Yep. And, you know, I grew up on a farm. Big rural. Major rule, close the gate. Close those gates behind you because we've got livestock out there. Pick up after yourself because we have livestock out there. When a farmer lets you into a pasture, believe it or not, you may be out in the pasture, fill that hole.
Yes,
that
because we have livestock.
You may be buying an Angus.
And that ain't cheap. Not to mention the fact that if you are careless enough to leave a gate open, oh boy, that's a mess when that livestock gets out and they've got to gather them all up.
Been there, done that. Not fun.
Yeah, we've had a number of incidents around here, which I'm sure that goes pretty much across the country, where somehow, whether a gate was left open or there's a break in the fence or whatever, livestock gets out, and unfortunately some driver isn't paying attention, hits a cow, possibly kills the animal, does a lot of damage to their vehicle, maybe personal injury. It's a whole big mess of a domino effect.
That's right. That's right. And, on the other side, there's those in our hobby, they nighthawk, they find out where you're at and try to get into it. Different things. So anymore, I post, I found a mercury dime, I found an Indian penny. I'm not, and in places I really not worried about them going, but there's places anymore I go into, and if I'm really nailing it, I don't say anything. You don't see it on the forums, right. You don't see it on any place, and that type of stuff, simply because I had one guy that was sharp enough to figure out that I had turned the GPS off. You can go into the pictures, get the coordinates, and you can go there. Well, I just posted up that I found several very nice pieces. This is a few years back, and the landowner called me up and said, "Hey, I got some guy I think out in the field detecting. It's after dark. Is that you?" He said, "I didn't think it was you." And I said, "You do?" So we tracked it down. He ran him off. In fact, he seen him coming. He got out of there before he got caught. And we kind of tracked down who it was and confronted him and told him, "You don't come out there." And we tracked back, kind of figuring out who he was, so I blocked him on everything. And, I didn't lose my permission, fortunately.
Thankfully.
But, thankfully. And, of course, I've known this guy most of my life. But, yeah, he said, and I told him about it. He said, technology's great until it turns around and bites you.
Right, yeah, there again, a two-way street, and it is, and you're right, it's great to be able to post up photos of finds and things like that, but sometimes it makes you wonder, and we've seen a lot of great finds posted this year already, in fact, but it makes you wonder, everything you're seeing, what are you not seeing? Because there are plenty of people out there, myself included, if I'm making really great finds, I may not be posting them, or I may be waiting until I get home and take some pictures after that and post them a couple of weeks after I found them.
Yes. And Greg had posted up earlier that people are using his name with his leverage on the hunts to get permissions. I know Greg, Greg, yeah, go ahead, blah, blah, blah. Well, that sucks too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've even heard of scenarios where people have been on property that they should not be on, and when they were confronted, they would give another person's name, another hunter in the area, and now all of a sudden, insert Greg's name here, now all of a sudden everybody thinks he's the bad guy, he was the trespasser, when it wasn't him at all.
Right.
And
right.
then you've got the whole mess of...
Don Myers posted here that Lake County and the Chicago area, you can't go in the forest preserves anymore because people didn't fill holes in.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Cook County Preserve...
Shut down, tire and drum.
Yeah, and the Cook County Preserve was a great place to hunt. I saw phenomenal finds coming out of there, and it only took a few people to ruin a good thing.
Right.
And that was very unfortunate.
you know, and folks, I go back, I've looked for caches. I've actually been contacted and hunted caches for people. And it takes a lot of provenance and things that I have to see before I go spend time doing that.
Yes, it does.
And I have contracts with these people. And the first contract I ever got came out of Jimmy Sierra. And he had you could get it, and it was pretty cut and dried. And I mean, it was tight. And
I'm sure you can still find it.
A couple times percentage.
Right, and I'm sure you can still find it online somewhere.
Yes, you can. And then state of Illinois, let's say we go out and find said $25,000 ring for somebody, they contact you to do it, and, you know, the first question I ask, have you turned this in on insurance? If they answer yes, then under the law, if they've already gotten a check, that's fair game in Illinois. If you find it and you get it back to them before they do that, you are allowed under the Illinois law of 10% of the value of that found item being returned.
Right.
So there are some things out there protecting us too, but
that varies state by state.
Yes, it does. It varies widely. You go up to Wisconsin, there isn't anything much in your favor anymore because they've you know, unless you have a written slip, you're not even supposed to detect in the lakes in Wisconsin. Jane Doe lost this ring in this area. I've got Chuck Smalley going out to look for it, and you got to have either that person with you or a slip saying so that's all you're looking for because of the artifacts that have been recovered, copper culture, and sold. And they've stomped on that. So there's things out there.
Yeah, otherwise park officers, DNR, whatever the case is, they're going to look at you and say, don't care. Don't care what your story is. You need to move on. You're in an area you should not be, and you can consider this your lucky day if I'm letting you off with just a warning.
And, you know, if you come across the cash on someone's property, and it happens.
It does.
It happens. What's ethical? Telling them about the cash or keeping your mouth shut and going home? I want to see you guys type that up. What would you do?
Yeah, that'd be great meat for conversation in the chat. Because what happens
What would you do if you came across the cash? You got permission, you're out in the pasture, there was a building out there, and you dig a cache. A, you're going to run up to the landowner and say, hey, guess what I found? B, just pack it in your bag and go home. And I'm not talking something that's a life-changing multi-million thing here. I'm talking you come up with a jar of, say, 50, 60 old coins. What are you going to do? Are you a treasure hunter and you keep your mouth shut, or are you an ethical person and have the landowner take it and thank you and then it's over with? What are you going to do? Tell me what you're going to do.
Because
type it up out there.
Because a lot of times...
It's not easy, but I tell them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's a tough call. And it can be a case-by-case basis because who knows? Maybe there was nothing there, say, 20 years ago. And somebody had a new home built there, bought the property, built a new house. You get permission to hunt it. And all of a sudden you come up with a small jar full of, say, $50 from late 1800s, early 1900s. Well, you know that wasn't theirs.
I got several people saying split 50-50, but I'll tell you what, after the fact on their property, 50-50's gone. If he wants it all, he can push the issue.
That's right.
So what do you do before you go in there? Do you talk to him, say, look, there's always a chance I could find this. And in the state of Illinois, I don't have a written contract, but if I get him to say 50-50 and he shakes hands on it and you have a witness, that's a binding contract.
That is a binding contract, yes. Exactly.
I have talked to people before I went on the site telling them this because when you have a group of homes that are gone, that were torn down and they were taken down, they were 1850s homes through 1910. 1850s is pre-Civil War. Civil War, people went out, they buried stuff, and it comes up.
Yes, they did, and it does, and it still continues to come up.
Yep.
Very good point.
And they just tore down square blocks of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, due to floodplain. The FEMA went in and purchased this. The guy with the backhoe was tearing the house down, pulled the porch off. The guy saw him jump off, stop the backhoe, jump off, pull this thing up. He headed for his truck. He didn't even shut the backhoe off and left the job site. A friend of mine went in. He'd heard about it. One of the other guys knew him, and he took out another 60-some-odd coins that had spilled out of this. They figured it was a gallon jar full of silver. And that guy just grabbed it and walked. But at that point, FEMA owned it.
Right. And if that guy was smart, nobody knows what was in that container.
He just dumped her in the truck and left. Engine was still running. And actually, if you go to, and I think it's episode 47 on Adventures in Prospecting, I did a show, I've done a couple shows with them. If you watch it, at the end, you'll see the recovered coins, silver dollars included, because Joe came over and talked about it, explained the story, and this wasn't all that long ago, and made that part of a recovery. He said he clipped it with the backhoe and some had spilled out, and they hadn't seen them, so he got them with a detector. But he just, he went in and got them too. But the thing is, if that happens at John Doe's house and he's visually there to see you pick that up, he can come in and say, that was Dad's, that's mine.
Right, and we've seen that happen before too. And sometimes it's a case-by-case scenario, I guess we could say. I mean, there have been hunts that I've been involved in where we were looking for specific items. And we had the understanding right up front, okay, if this is found, this is what we'll do. And recoveries were made, but nothing was ever posted.
Right. Nothing said. Nothing, it's one thing being a coin shooter and you stumble across something. Because basically, people, most of you out there are coin shooters. We're out hunting looking for coins, rings, that type of stuff, relics. You're digging one at a time. But when you get involved into it and you start looking for a cache, and I have found caches, and I have worked with people to recover a cache, it's a whole different story. It's a major story if it gets out.
Absolutely.
That couple out there ran into nothing but trouble in California for quite a while over cans of gold on their property.
Yeah.
All the way to the point feds got involved, but they couldn't do a thing about it. It ended up being free and clear because they went to a dealer.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. At that point,
he's the one that ran his mouth off about it.
Exactly. They were trying to keep things quiet. The dealer let that out. And that's unfortunate.
Mike, and spot on. In the state of Illinois, if two people agree to a subject and there is monetary value going to be split one way or the other, and you have a third person witness, he heard, saw the handshake, it is a binding agreement in court. I've seen that happen, so that's the questions they're asking right now.
Absolutely it is. I mean, and like you said too, there have been incidents where, you're out hunting somewhere, maybe it's a public park or what have you, developed land, and you wind up coming across the cache. I mean, I've been in those scenarios too, where at that point, well, those coins look nice in my display as it does anywhere else.
That's right. And I've found caches. I've been very fortunate, and I've worked on some and found them. I've worked on others and never found one, or never found that one.
Right.
And one of them's Callahan's Gold, which is down in Missouri, and I'm not going to go into great detail on it, but it was outbreak of Civil War. He wanted to bury the family money, silver, I'm talking whatever they could. 2 slaves with him. They dug the hole. He killed them both, put them in the hole with him. They dug quite the hole. He killed them both. He hung for it. This is all well documented. It's still there. It's never been recovered. And there's family ties on my wife's side into this and documentation that has enough provenance to go look for it. A lot of provenance. Lots of it. So, yeah, he also killed a third-party member in there that wasn't a slave over this deal, and that's what he hung for, not killing the 2 slaves. So, this is the kind of stuff that pikes your interest. There's another one out in Wyoming that a friend of mine and I have looked for years. It's there. We know it's there. It's documented. It's just they changed a lot of the area with a bulldozer.
Right. The layout of the land has changed. It complicates things.
Mm-hmm. Very famous robbery. That's never been recovered. 16 one-pound ingots. From the Clarissa mine. So I've given you enough. If you can find where the Clarissa mine is at in Wyoming, you'll find the story.
Well, and I've even been contacted before by people to say, hey, my relatives, they hid a small jar of coins on the property. Do you think you could come out and find it? And I'll tell them, well, if you guys really want it recovered, I can get a couple of people. We can go look for it. But we're not just going to hand it over. I mean, you got to give us something for our time, a finder's fee. Not saying we got to keep it all, but a few coins would be nice or something like that. And then once I start getting into doing a little bit of research, I find out that the story I'm hearing isn't necessarily the original story. And it's actually more than just a small jar of coins. And at that point, I don't even touch it. It's like, okay, you're not even being upfront with me. I can see how this goes. It surfaces. You grab the jar. I'm trespassing on the property or kicked off of the property or whatever. We're not going down that road.
Right. So there's all kinds of levels of ethics, and the best way to start is with what we do. Pick up our trash. We had a hunt over here at the Cordova Drag Strip. I got permission to bring in a lot of people, broke it down into teams, each club competing against each other, and each club, first, second, and third, there were 5 clubs represented, first, second, and third, wanted a detector to take back to their club to either raffle or use in a hunt or whatever. My lab backed me up. This was a few years ago. We had a lot of fun in it, and the one way that I figured to get them to pick up the trash was the team that brought in by weight.
Who collects the most
amount of trash that won. They actually picked up a 55-gallon drum full of aluminum and crap. And by weight, they got extra points toward winning a detector.
Wow. Very cool.
So, ethics is great. Fill in the holes, all that kind of stuff. Shovels, they were allowed there because it's out in the back, but they still had to fill the holes in. And that kind of stuff. But we go into parks and they have hunts. It's all hand tools. We can't, we want to keep a good welcome for clubs to come in and individuals to hunt. So you got to fill those holes in.
Right. It's all public perception. I mean, I know some people that they can cut an excellent plug with, say, a 31-inch Samson.
Oh, yeah. I've seen them do it, but it's the perception of a shovel in a public park.
Right.
What are you doing with a shovel? Florida, some of the public parks down there have their underground sprinkler systems, and many of them been cut with a shovel, and it can cost up to a couple grand to replace a big sprinkler head. So that hurt them in Florida. That I do know. I actually was down there with Kellyco talking with a local park and county on reopening it, and that was one of the things they said is why they closed it to detecting.
Right. Well, you've been around in this stuff long enough too. I'm sure you can recall the story of Jimmy Sierra digging on a target and actually broke the head off of a sprinkler system that caused thousands of dollars worth of damage, and that was it. Detecting was done in that area.
Yep. So it's common sense.
A lot of it is. Yeah.
And there are some out there that just, it doesn't catch on, I don't think, too well.
No, not at all. And people have to understand too, especially when we're talking about caches and things of that nature, which you had kind of mentioned earlier in this call anyway, is that we're not saying that detectors should or shouldn't say something or not say something about that cache. That's more of a kind of like a drawing a line between who's a hobbyist detectorist and who's a treasure hunter.
And that's, you get, it's just like in the prospect, and you grow with it, and you grow too big, and you spend a lot of money, and you hope you get it back.
Right.
I went through that for about a 15-year period. Did rather well at the end when gold took off finally, and we sold out of stuff. Did very well, but same way with detecting. You start out with a $150 detector, and you keep rolling up. That's why I try to tell people right now the best thing you do is buy one of these mid-range or a little better. You're starting out, and you can stay with that machine for a long time.
Oh yeah, you can grow with it. They're very advanced. They're like computers on sticks, and the technology is there. It's not like, say, 10 years ago or whatever. If you wanted a waterproof machine, you couldn't touch one for under $1,000. Now you can get them for $250.
Yeah. But the next step up to that bigger level is changing too. It's going to be interesting to see, and I'm looking forward to the Apex. That's for sure. And I don't know if Frank's still with us or not. He put a little kind of a shadow picture of one. I think that's out through there.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yep, and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting there on the 15th and see what's happening, and hopefully that they're geared up so they can get them out to the dealers and we can get them out to you. And for those who be interested, I want to get one in my hands and give it some time so I can say I know something about it.
Absolutely. And I mean, hats off to Garrett for hype. They're definitely doing well with this one because realistically, that's what have we seen?
The best I've seen.
Yeah, what have we seen? Nothing really.
Nothing. And Bill, no, you know as much as I do on the Apex. You may have saw the teasers and the shadow picture, and looking from the side, it kind of looks like a modified 800.
And from what we've seen of the teaser video and things of that nature, we know that there are certain things that we can that we can assume that it is going to have as far as technology goes, but we still don't know for sure, other than we know it's going to be rechargeable, we know it's going to be lightweight, and we can assume from what we've seen from the other manufacturers that it's probably going to be waterproof and updatable and all the nice bells and whistles that we've seen from the other ones. Looks like we've got Barb on with us. How's it going, Barb?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
You know what, Barb? I saw something you posted,
An ugly box?
I don't know where you got those flowers, but the state of Illinois, we can't even pick wildflowers anymore.
Okay, so the property was taken by eminent domain by the state. They have leveled.
Okay.
They have leveled all the trailers and all the houses on that property, and they are now bulldozing it. And so I went up metal detecting on the hill, and I dug some lavender irises a couple weeks ago, and I'm swinging, and I went, oh my God, those are going home with me. So I came home with 6 huge plants. They're gorgeous. I gave 2 to my neighbor for Mother's Day. She was ecstatic. And I brought the other 4 and put them in my garden and watered them. And the flowers have wilted, but they look lovely. So they were going to get bulldozed.
Did you find any Indians?
No.
Oh. Well, I had to ask.
I found an axe head and the flowers. That was it. But I have a hypothetical question for Chuck.
Oh.
Yeah, so as you're talking about landowners can take this, that, the other thing, and whatever. Right. I have a whole. Am I loud, Bill? I can lower it. I will turn it down an octave. So I am getting ready to start on Riker case number 3 of my Blackwood lumber finds. Nice. The first 2 are pretty packed.
And they look good.
And so here's the hypothetical question. I had thought about going to the paper saying, this would be a good article to, show all this stuff that's part of our history. I mean, I've taken them and shown them to people that their family, they were kids when the lumber company was there. Right. And they've been really excited about it. But I worried if I wrote an article and they asked me where I found them, and I say, well, on the state property they took by eminent domain to widen the road, could they say that's our property and take it?
Under your state laws, probably not at this time, but I can't guarantee you that, Barb.
Because it is different state by state.
Right. If there's no direct tie to any single individual or any single spot, in other words, of a great monetary value or some historical value to your area, regionally speaking, they probably wouldn't come after it. The other thing, if you get multiples, if you have a local historical society that has a little museum, loan them to them and let them put them on display, and probably nobody would loan them. You remember that word, loan them.
Exactly.
Right. And put them on display, and nobody will probably say a word.
Okay. Right. Don't donate, loan.
The thing...
That's your call. No. You can donate. If you got multiples, donate. But if you only got one piece, loan it to them. Don't put it on semi-permanent display, make a little contract with them. They've got them, believe me. And you can have things displayed in the historical venues all over on a loan.
Right. And I will say, obviously, not every historical society would be the same way, but many of the listeners have heard of instances on the show where things are donated to a historical society, and then all of a sudden, somewhere along the way, they disappear.
Exactly.
And that does happen.
I had a gentleman that wanted to purchase my tokens, and I'm like, I'm sorry, they're not for sale. And he's like, but if I buy them, I'll donate them to the Historical Society. And I'm like, that's exactly what I don't want to happen, you know.
It's a tough call, Barb. You dig into history. You want to share the history with everybody. And I'm thinking what you've got there probably won't create a big stir. It's state property. look into the laws, what the state says you can and can't recover. They are coming out with more and more of that.
Right, we're becoming more and more heavily regulated because of people doing the wrong things.
The only thing that saves me is if they tried to come after me, I can say I hunted the property before they took it, and they'd have to prove me, wrong.
Yeah, and Frank posted up, he's had loader fines vanish. So, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it does happen.
It does happen. So, and if you want to do an article on it and take pictures and say, and you can be careful on how you said you acquired them.
Right. Because you also have to stop and think. For you, your mindset was to obviously collect this history before it was lost, document it, so you yourself kind of have an obligation as a custodian to keep this together, whether you want to loan it to a historical society or show it off at the local library or what have you. You have an obligation to protect, preserve, and share that knowledge and information with people so that future generations can enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Bill has seen the first few tokens that I dug up in person when I went to Ohio, and that case has grown, now into number 3 case. And now that I have my ugly box, I'm going to try to preserve some of the buttons.
There you go.
And so that they don't disintegrate. So I want to do that before I do any pictures.
Right.
Have you practiced anything other than those with the ugly box yet? Did you watch Frank's 3-part series on that? I'm just asking.
I've watched all of Frank's videos, but I need to watch it again because I'm one of these people, I need to watch it right before I do it. I haven't played with it yet. I was going to today, but the greenhouse took me away.
Okay.
I have, I think, 10 orders I'm taking to work in the morning, so I had to get all the plants in boxes. That's my digging in Virginia, my vacation money, so.
There you go.
Could be your digging in England money.
It could be. I will, Frank. I appreciate that. But I'm going to watch it again.
I got a note today. My digging in England's still on. Just hopefully they drop the 14-day quarantine for people coming into England. You got to sit for 14 days in your solitary confinement before they'll let you out into England right now.
Ooh.
So they're hoping they drop that. I haven't booked a flight yet, but hopefully, Barb, I get to go back.
Well, here's my issue. Fred was asking, am I going to Mass? Because I know he wants some moon vines. Well, I work for the tribe, and as of Friday, the roadblocks have come down Friday night, unless something's happened between Friday and now that I don't know of. So I won't have to go through a roadblock for the first time in a month. But we have executive orders from the chief. If we go out of state, because all the states around us are opening, we have to quarantine for 14 days before we go back to work. And I'm not ready to use my 2 weeks of sick time to, I mean, it'd be great, go home and see my mom and then come home and have 2 weeks off paid. I just don't want to go through New York.
Right. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I'm basically Wednesday, and they've talked to me about this. I am traveling into the hottest county in the state with somewhere in the area of 4,000 confirmed cases to get my treatment. And I have been told that I will be checked at the door before I'm even let into the building with a list of questions, have my temperature checked, and given a mask that I will have to wear the entire time. And if I have so much as a fever, that's it. End of game. Turn around, 2-hour drive back home, no treatment. And treatment gets pushed back another 6 weeks.
Well, I hope you get your treatment. My eye appointment's been rescheduled. My dentist appointment's been rescheduled.
Yeah, you couldn't pay me enough to be an eye doctor or dentist right now.
My doctor's appointment's been rescheduled. I'm like, okay, I'll see you sometime this year.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, Barb, getting back to your question, that comes to writing an article, showing the tokens that you have collected, not necessarily having to say how you come by them. It's history. You've recovered these, or where you've come by them would be what I would try to avoid.
Right. I've acquired these.
The good thing is the lumber company probably was maybe 5 to 10 acres. It was a pretty big operation. So there's enough homeowners, enough variety of properties that I could get away with not saying exactly where I found them.
Right, and the way you've been covering the ground, there's no way you can pin it down to one specific location to begin with.
No, I could walk you and show you wherever. I don't keep a log. It's all in my brain. When I get dementia, I'll wish I had wrote it all down. But I can basically walk you through the 2 acres that I've been metal detecting and tell you where I found everything.
Right. Well, and that's understandable. I mean, many of us are nice finds or are first finds or are memorable finds. A lot of times, years after the fact, we could still take you out to that spot and probably be within 10 feet of where we dug it up and point at the ground and say, yep, it was right there.
Yep, exactly. So I just thought I'd throw that out there because I wasn't sure, I'm like, because I did talk to one of the guys who is like the man at the state for highways and crap. And I said, how do I determine what property the state owns and what they don't own there? And he said, everything from the telephone poles to the road we own. I said, so I can metal detect between the telephone poles and the road. And he said, yep, have at it. So
well, there you
I
go.
did.
And you did in spades.
Well, I appreciate, excuse me, I appreciate you letting me call in. And I am going to get with my ugly box this week. And
show me some pictures, what you're doing. We'll keep you on the straight and narrow, and then we always got Frank to fall back on and see how that goes. But I've been using mine a little bit, and I've had some very good results.
And we would love to see pictures before and after.
And if anybody's needing things for their ugly box, I've got the reboot kits, but some guys are wanting bulk brine, and I'm trying to get that set up. I don't know if they're going to go direct or if I get it from Ronnie or whatever. And I do have an ugly box in stock, and I know there's more coming down the pike. Frank's been working on them.
Yep.
So I'll probably have to replace my inventory shortly.
And I do believe that Frank had mentioned before that they were trying to work on something for those who just wanted brine. How that will be distributed, though, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know.
I do have a question.
And you can make your own, but Frank's worked a long time on getting this mixture to work with his equipment, and I would highly recommend that you just use that mixture.
Okay, I have two questions, Chuck, about the ugly box. One, I have a lot of their overall buttons. And I have dated them because a lot of them have, names and words on them. And so they are period. So the button part looks great, but the back part that went through the clothes is like real rusty and cruddy. I need
you had a brass or copper outer shell over a steel or iron glass that went through, and that rusts. And it's like many of the old Tombacks were like a tin with a brass outside of it, and they just fall apart. So I'd be real careful. I'd take one and just do some testing, short periods of time, see how it cleans up.
Well, I was going to say, do I need to do something to the part that's rusty on the back before I put it in?
Well, that's one for Frank. I'll leave that to Frank if he wants to answer that. And I wouldn't, but he may say, here's what you do to do that. But the thing is that little bit of rust may clean up nicely with a short period of time on that unit. Basically, you're not really worried about that back as much as you want to clean that front side up so you can read it.
Exactly, because that's what's going to be on display is the front side of it.
Right. I just didn't want the rust to disintegrate upward into, the button part. That's why I wanted to try to do electrolysis on them.
Yep.
Right.
And if you've got a multiple, let's say you've got 3 of the same, grab one of those and practice with it. In fact, I would take the one that would be least likely to be the best of the 3 or 2 or whatever you got, and work with that one, see how it comes out, short periods of time, as Frank always said, and you make enough brine, as he's saying, just to cover the item, and give it a shot.
Right. Or if you're a little concerned, take a very clear photo of the condition of that and shoot it off in a message to Frank and ask him, what do you think I should do?
So he's the expert out there, and I've been messing with quite a bit of stuff. Now, I did electrolysis for 37 years on a scale that Frank would not believe. When you got 20,000 pounds in the bath and you're making material out of what's went through the electrolysis, it's a different system. I'm not cleaning things. I'm taking ions off one chemical and attaching other ions on the other to get a finished product, and it is an electrolysis. So, but I didn't mess with little things very much. I was afraid I'd fry them.
Okay, so now I have another question. I have
full of questions.
Well, this is like, what did it say?
Right. This is how to get them answered.
Okay, so I have old silverware that I have found, and it looks like they're lead or iron. I think iron. And so they're rusty. I pulled one today. I thought it was a file, but it's actually a knife blade that must have had a wooden handle. And I've got 2 or 3, and of course it's got the crud and the rust. So I can do those too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Electrolysis is a great option for iron artifacts.
Oh, and Frank just answered my last question. When the water gets
when
dirty,
it gets dirty, change it.
Yes.
Okay.
Make sure you're changing water frequently.
Okay. So that means I need to clean the cleaner stuff first. And
that's your call. You can go.
Right. That's entirely up to you. I mean, like when I clean an item, I'll use the brine solution for the item I'm cleaning. After I'm done, if it still looks fairly clear, maybe I'll go ahead and clean another item with it. If it doesn't, the brine is not that complicated. It's not that expensive. I'll just dump it out and start fresh.
Okay, so the little bag that came with my thing, how far does that go? Not far or very far or?
It depends upon how much you're using at the time that you're using it and how often you're using it. I mean, we're not talking I don't know what kind of bath you have set up there. First order of business, put the hypersonic, put the thunder to it, flake off all the loose dirt.
Okay.
All right, do that first. Don't try. You got to get it semi-clean of the outside dirt. Then light brushing. Take a look at it. I mean, soft brush. You can use the thrasher if you got some crud. Take that off, and then go into your final bath with that. And you only do enough water brine mix to cover the object that you're working with. Don't do like I did on the very first couple. Well, I had it about 2.5 inches deep, and of course the clip falls in, and what happens to the clip? It gets ate up.
Right, it disappears.
Quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Real quickly.
Exactly. But, and that's another reason, too, why we say short cooks, because some of these items are going to clean up faster than others, and it doesn't take a lot of time sometimes.
Right.
Now, Ohio Wild Hunter tells you 2 gallons. Listen to what Frank said. Water, half a teaspoon.
Okay, so I do have one big item I need to do, and it is this weird wrench that has like a C wrench on the one end, and it comes straight out, but then it's got a crook in it, and it's got a pointed end. And
Right.
it's what they use to tap the railway together.
Right.
So am I going to have to put a lot of brine in the container I have to put this big? It's like 2 feet.
Well, he gives you a half a teaspoon to a cup of water.
Oh,
and you
God.
just get that covered, whatever it is that you're putting in, you just get it covered enough. So if it takes 4 cups, 2 teaspoons.
Okay.
And obviously, with it being a larger item, it may take you a while to clean it, but that box is perfectly capable of doing it.
Yeah, and you've got the copperhead. You can adjust that voltage up and down. You have the wall unit, so you aren't using up a lot of batteries on that. So, but
Okay.
taking them short shots first. Don't turn a silver coin black like I did and take off to a fire and forget about it.
No.
So, that type of thing. And I mean, I turn it black.
That's bad.
It happens.
So that's
it
a
happens.
memory. That's a memory coin. It sits right there. I remember what I did wrong with it. It ain't going to happen again.
Well, this has been a lot of good information. I appreciate it. I can't wait to use it. And like I said,
if you've got any questions along the way, like you're concerned about the condition of the backs of the buttons or whatever, it doesn't hurt to take a little bit of time, take a good photo, and just shoot him a message and see what he thinks. Not saying he's going to answer back right away, but he will get back to you.
No, Frank answers me right away because he knows I know where he lives.
Well, okay.
I'm sure Frank's worried about that.
Yeah, I don't think that's putting much of a fear factor in him. But hey, it's your story. You can tell it how you want.
It was funny because him and Steve were neighbors when I went to Florida hunt 6, and I come out and I'm like, "Hey guys," and at that point I think they were like, "We don't know who you are, but hey," it was kind of funny.
Yeah, if anything, I think Frank's probably more concerned about Steve knowing where he lives.
Steve ain't
So
right.
anyway, I hope that helped, Barb, and go after it. Go get it. And you guys been asking Frank about bulk brine, because I don't have bulk yet. I just have the reboot packs. And I did talk to Ronnie about it, so I know they're considering something in the future here, but if you really need it, get hold of Frank. We'll all bug him, make sure you get what you need, because they're trying to do larger items now.
Well, and if I remember right, it may not be the exact recipe that he's using now, but I do believe Frank's brine recipe is out there on the internet.
Yes, it is.
Now, that's not to say that's what he's using now.
But he's having trouble, Mike's having trouble getting the salt that he needs here. It may be more readily available out east than it is here. And I haven't really looked for it. The real fine salt, sea salt or non-iodized salt.
Right.
In any amount.
I got lots of that.
Well, then just figure out what else all you need, and you can make up your own.
I'm like the preparator, the hoarder. So I think I have like 2 massive big jars of sea salt. Really good sea salt.
But make sure it's non-iodized.
It's not.
Right.
No, it's expensive stuff I bought on Martha's Vineyard.
Because believe me, you will not be happy if you forget that.
And Frank mentions here the real difference in what he uses versus what can be acquired over the counter is medical grade. It's very fine, and it rinses away clean. I mean, that stuff, looking at that powder, it's super, it's almost talc grade.
Oh, it is really nice. I look forward, but I will definitely, this week, I think I'll have all my orders out Wednesday. So I still have a greenhouse full. So, but I have like 3 flats of flowers to replant, and I got to get the garden tilled and get the garden in. But I will get to it this week.
And
there you go.
If this does come to fruition of bulk brine, I mean, realistically, it's not like it's going to break the bank. I mean, the reboot kits that Chuck has are very, very affordably priced.
Yeah.
But some of the guys are wanting to do some large iron. It's going to probably use up 1 reboot kit immediately. And talking with Mike there a little bit ago, he called me, and we've been chatting online. I told him, get on Frank directly and see what he can come up with, and we'll see if we can start getting it in bulk or something. And hopefully we can get you guys going on your large iron out there. I'm not one unless I get an unusual axe head, early axe head, something like that. I've got a couple that I considered. I haven't done yet. Some other things, and I may try to stabilize and see how that goes. But right now, it's basically coins and small items that I'm working with.
And
I did find an axe head today. And so it will get done in the next week or two. And it's an old one. I think it's Michigan style.
Cool.
And it's fun. I've only found one other, and it's the exact same style. And I found it on my neighbor's property, and I restored it using other methods and gave it to him like 2 months ago. And so I was tickled that I find one. Now I have one that I can keep.
Yeah, there you go. Definitely awesome.
There you go.
Very, very cool.
So,
all right.
Well, I'm going to get out of here, Josh.
Me
and
too.
Herb and everybody. I hope I didn't confuse anybody about talking about ethics and things. There are different circumstances for each type of hunt that you're doing, whether it's if you're into the treasure hunting mode, it's a different story than maybe going on someone's private property and then, a handshake and I say, look, if I find something that pertains like to your family, like a ring or lost item, I do find old coins, but nothing that's going to make anybody's bank. that's one thing. But when you're going in and looking for things on people's property that could have some significant monetary value, then things have to be contracted and worked out and looked at in a different light.
Yeah, absolutely it does. I mean, like I said, I have been contacted for, I was contacted for something on a very large scale, and there was not, well, we can't say there was a full recovery, but there were recoveries made. And we had agreed ahead of time, we're not going to split this. You know, this will all stay with you. However, I will be reimbursed for my time, equipment, experience, skill, whatever you want to word it. And, you know, that translates into whatever's recovered is known by you, and that's where it stays. If it gets out, it's because you let it out, because that also can be considered hush money.
Great.
And that's what we did.
I mean, finding individual items, hitting a spot with a bunch of good coins on it, like this lady did over there with her 4 reals, awesome find, just awesome. The pictures were gorgeous, and those were in nice shape. Those coins were beautiful. Looked like she had a big nose Charlie on there, too.
Nice.
Carlos. And then, you know, those type of things. If you hit a jar or a box of money or whatever, it's up to you and your conscience to make a decision what you're going to do there.
Right.
If you don't have a pre-agreed setup.
That's a good way to put it, because like I tell people a lot of times, what do good treasure hunters find? And when they say, well, I don't know, you just tell them, that's right. I don't either, because usually mum's the word.
That's right. So, you know, it's hard for me to come out and say something like, just put it in your pouch and walk away. Or you have a gut feeling that maybe somebody in this guy's family buried this and he could use it. Or you split it or whatever. But if you have an inclination to finding something there, if you have a feeling that there could be buried, or there's reports of it there from the family, then sit down with them and say, look, I do a 75 for you, 25 for me. If something comes up like, let's write a contract, shake hands, and I'll go look.
Exactly.
I've done contracts in the past. So it covered me, it covered them, and everybody was happy, and nothing else was said beyond that.
Exactly. Yeah, it worked out well, and that's the important part.
So cover yourself out there. That's all I can say on that part of it. And then the rest of it is just good common sense. Pick up your trash, fill your holes, shut the gates, and have a good time in our hobby. There are still going to be people, no matter what we do, that are going to take a dim light on what we're doing. So we have to work to get that gone.
Right. All we can do in that area is just continue to educate the uneducated.
That's right. So I'm going to get out of here. You have a great night. Good night, everybody. Frank, have a great one. Get back making me some more boxes, will you? We'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Okay. See you later, Josh.
We'll see you, Chuck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And like Chuck was saying, obviously, you have to cover yourself. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on real quick. We have kind of ran on a little ways, but I find myself in a situation right now where keeping logs, keeping message histories can be a good idea. And without putting out too much detail, when I'm contacted to attempt to recover an item, A lot of times there may be an email trail or a text message trail. And I keep those. Whether the item's recovered, not recovered, there's going to be another attempt, whatever. I keep those histories. Because there have been times where, usually the reason why it's so handy is because there have been times in the past where I have been out to locate an item and they didn't have me in the right spot. In the meantime, the item turns up and it gets handed in to the police, and the police aren't sure how to contact the person that the item belongs to, but they know that I was out there trying to recover the item. So they contact me. Hey, how do we get this back to whoever we need to get it back to? Oh, well, that's easy. I've got a message history right here. I've got a phone number or a name, whatever, that I can provide you with. Therefore, I'm still playing my part in helping to return the item and do the right thing. That being said, if you get contacted to do a recovery, and many of you know what I'm talking about, sometimes the story you get when the item is lost, compared to the story that you get while you're there looking for it and you're asking them more questions, they're starting to open up a little more, you find out that they're two different stories, which many times can help put you into the right spot and you're able to recover the item. If you get contacted for a larger item, as in a more valuable item, many times the first thing that I like to ask them is, okay, this is a valuable item. Hopefully it was insured. And did you file a report with your local law enforcement agency? Whether that's the police department, the sheriff's office, whatever. Because you need to file a lost report to make sure that they know too, this item is missing, in case somebody does come up with it and turn it in. It only helps to cover them. It helps to cover you. And recently I was involved in a recovery attempt for a valuable item, we'll say. And we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. And the person told me, yes, I have filed a report with the local law enforcement agency. It has been reported as lost. Okay. I'll come out. I'll do what I can. We'll see what we can do for you. And it's another option for you. So I go out, I do this, and unfortunately, nothing was found. There were other people there before me, and we do hope that they didn't do the unethical thing and just slip it in their pocket and claim that they didn't find it. But either way, a amount of time goes by. All of a sudden, the other day, I get a phone call from a local law enforcement agency asking me questions about it. Obviously, I have nothing to hide, so I tell them everything I know. And that's when I find out that the item had not been reported as lost when I was told that it was, and has since been reported, but it's been reported as stolen. Well, what do you do? I mean, it's my word against theirs. But, thankfully, I do have that message history, so I was able to tell the agency, hey, this is when I was initially contacted, this is what was said, this is when I made the recovery attempt, This was the address, this was the person's name, yada, yada, yada. I have a text message history that I can provide you. One thing I can tell you is I don't have it, and God help anybody that does, because this is a traceable item. Which they, thankfully, they thanked me for my time, said I was very helpful. They didn't think that I had it or had anything nefarious to do with it. But still, you gotta cover yourself. And had I not had that message history, I couldn't provide them with the dates that they were requesting, since there has been such an amount of time go by. And, maybe I would have been in some very hot water. Because for the value you're talking, this is not a minor charge. This is grand theft. This is prison time. Which, like I said, thankfully, they were very thankful for the information I was able to provide. They know that they're getting a different story now, and they've been put on the right track. So it's good to keep that line of communication if you do get contacted for recovery, just in case. Because not everybody out there is our friend. Some people have some other ideas, and it sounds like this is starting to turn into more of an insurance scam than anything else, and that's where I drop it. I'm backing away. Because we will not play that. We are, myself, many of the listeners, we are much too ethical and reputable of people representing our hobby that's not the road that we're going to go down. So, wanted to make sure and remind people about that too. Obviously, also, make sure and tune in tomorrow. That would be Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, for Detect America over on their Facebook group. Frank and Steve's going to be getting together and doing probably just some general chit-chat. But you're going to have a few laughs, obviously. You're going to have a good time. You learn something, and who knows, maybe they love to give things away. There's no other way to put it. They love to give things away. So maybe you find that you're a winner. But you got to be there. You got to be there if you're going to win. You can't win if you don't play, right? And they do. They put on a good show, so kudos to them. We will be there. This Wednesday, the 13th, we will be running an archive here. Crazy Spider has requested that we air the Don Finch archive, which is from way back in the vaults. We're going back 5-6 years to get that archive. So keep that in mind if you're listening. If he mentions, oh yeah, I've been enjoying the hobby for 50 years. Well, it's longer than that now. Because this interview was, oh gosh, I want to say this interview was probably early 2014. But it is a good interview, great guy to talk to, great information. It just can't be helped. Wednesday, I will not be available for the show. I have to try to get back on the right side of things with treatment and all of that. So hopefully we will be back next Sunday. Otherwise, we have had some requests for the Frank Pandozzi archive. And if we can't make it back Sunday, well, I guess we'll go ahead and do that. But hopefully we are back by then, and hopefully everybody hangs in with us as we take our brief break Wednesday, because it's going to be a long, rough day, and we can't make the trip and do the treatment and still be back and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for a show. It just, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. And hopefully we're able to bounce back well enough that we are back Sunday. Until then, though, obviously, Detect America, 8 p.m. Eastern, Mondays and Thursdays, and an occasional go live here and there at a time to be determined, because you just never know when they're going to pop up. Until then, be ethical, stay safe. If you've got your ugly and you want to get your ugly on with the ugly box and do your cook, post up those pictures. We love to see the before and afters. If you're not cooking and you're just trying to get out there and find something, post up those photos too. We love to see them all. Definitely. Until the next time, check out Crazy Spider Adventures, Detect Ed Outdoors, Ohio Metal Detecting NYC, The DA Show, and stay safe and stay healthy. Throw us a like if you'd like. Follow us on Facebook, Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes, iHeart. We're out there everywhere. Just Google. It's your friend. Have a wonderful evening, folks. We're out of here.